It's crazy to think about, but we're almost at the 1 year mark for the One Piece trading card game. When the game was first announced, there were only 4 colors, those colors being red, blue, green, and purple. Red, it's kind of changed a little bit, but it tends to be the same of a deck that's extremely aggressive, characters with rush allowing you to attack the same turn that they're played, as well as unblockable, so you can go ahead and get around your opponent's blockers and force them to have to deal with your attack straight up. Blue was a deck that allowed people to deal with bouncing cards back up to the opponent's hand or playing a plethora of event cards in order to generate advantage. If you're playing green, it was also a little bit of a control style, but with a different twist. Rather than bouncing cards back up to the opponent's hand, instead, you could go ahead and rest them and make them vulnerable to get KO'd by other cards' effects that KO rested cards, or just straight up attacking them. And then you have purple. Now, what does purple do? Well, purple is the stereotypical deck in most trading card games, or collectible card games even, that allows you to ramp. It allows you to scale up into later stages of the game, get resources faster than your opponent, have a little bit of a worse early game, so that when you get to that late game, you are an absolute threat. So, of course you guys see the title of the video, why nobody plays purple, and of course there's hyperbole. I know, of course, there's going to be somebody down in the comments that says, hey, I play purple, so therefore it can't be nobody. You guys get what I'm saying, though. Purple isn't really a deck. It's not really a color that people are really playing, even on a casual level, at least that's what I've seen. People still have a lot more fun playing blue or green when they are going to be playing more on a casual level. And of course, with things being extremely competitive, red is going to stay at the top. And that's a topic for another video. But when it comes to purple, at the fundamental core of the game, it is all about Dawn. And when you are sending Dawn back to the Dawn deck in this game, there is a huge opportunity cost. Of course, Dawn allows you to do everything from playing characters to having offense to having defense. And of course, if you're losing one or multiple of them on each one of your turns or anytime you want to do anything, then of course, the reward for doing so has to be significant. In fact, in set 1, it was actually very powerful. You have cards like Queen, a card that was relatively difficult to get over unless a certain combination of cards were there. Of course, there were things like Jet Pistol or maybe Okiku if that was on the board prior in order to rest it and take advantage of it and get off the board. But in OPO1, it was just such a nice body to have 6k on the board and allow you to generate advantage. Of course, if you have your Onigashima as well, when you go ahead and send that one Dawn back to the Dawn deck, you could go ahead and get that back with the Onigashima. So it wasn't too bad. Of course, you had things like King that was able to destroy things on the field. Rush Kaido to further allow you to play that big beat stick and have an aggressive game plan, play that large character after ramping, having a little bit of a weaker early game, and have that big boss card for the end. And then, of course, 10 drop Kaido to nuke the entire board and completely take over the game if you can get to that point. OPO1 was the shining bright and the most exciting part of purple, which is kind of sad considering that we are now already heading into our 4th set and it kind of peaked in set 1. Now, why was that? Just to be honest, other decks didn't quite have the tools that could deal with it at the time. But now when you look at the game, and it's crazy because we're only 3 sets in, the game has gotten faster. And so a deck that wants to ramp up without the right tools, without the benefit, the opportunity cost, without that positive of you sending Dawn back being so significant and rather it staying the same or rather lackluster than anything that we've seen after OPO1, then it just can't keep up. When you look at the top decks of the format, when you look at your Fulgur Law, I mean, he's a character that will always be good in any format because he just breaks the rules of the game, allowing you to just cheat cards out. That Law will always be broken. I stand by that. So there's Law that's always at the top of every format. And then when you look at Zoro, Zoro was a decent deck in OPO1, but since then, OPO2, very powerful. OPO3, probably best deck in the format. Then of course you have the introduction of Whitebeard. Whitebeard also being an extremely strong deck in OPO2, whether you are playing Strawbeard or Boatbeard, but then also in OPO3, even with Moby Dick Band being able to get even more support, this is a deck that also dominated the format, especially because of Marco. And by the way, that Marco was also played in Zoro, and that's also why that deck is so hard to deal with. Red is just so powerful, and of course it's kind of unfair to rank purple up against red because it's like, okay, well, red just dominates everything, right? It doesn't matter if you're playing green, black, yellow, doesn't matter. Well, you know, yellow is kind of good. We have been seeing some black as well perform, but let's all be real. It's a red show. It's always been a red show. It's going to continue to be a red show, especially if you guys have seen some of the new cards that have been previewed. So with all of that being said, purple just can't compete with what is currently the best. So from a meta standpoint, it's like, okay, well, you can't play purple. But then on top of that, now when you start talking about the casual cards, or casual players rather, the leaders itself in purple aren't that fun to play. When you look at leaders in other colors, they actually seem fun to pilot. Whereas in purple, unfortunately, the only leaders that seem fun are those that are dual colored type. Like for me, for instance, I think that Blurple Croc is an absolute blast to play. I think that with the new cards coming in OP04, we have Blurple Kaido. That's going to be a lot more interesting as well. But again, that's blue and purple as well as blue and purple with both of those leaders in OP01. In terms of pure purple leaders, we have Kaido, the starter deck Kaido, which again is a strong ability. It's decent, but now at this point of the stage of the metagame and everything like that, it's too slow. Is it really fun to pilot? I mean, it's okay, but I wouldn't say it's fun, right? Like for me, fun, I like the ability of being able to cheat cards out with Doflamingo, right? If we're talking about set one, like I would view those things as fun. Now, of course, people might say that is Zoro fun? He's just adding 1,000. Of course, well, people will say winning's fun. But regardless of Kaido, let's talk about some of the other pure purple leaders. Iceberg is a deck that I would probably say would be the most fun out of all of them if it was pure purple. I think that there's a lot of cool, interesting cards. I think the mechanics of it are pretty good, but unfortunately, the cards just don't stack up. It's like it was already power crept in its own set. When Iceberg first came out and people started looking at Galila Company cards, everybody was like, oh my gosh, searchable Onigashima, this is going to be a really good deck. But then the rest of the cards were just not that good. And so because of that, it already was power crept in its own set in the sense of every other color already getting better than purple. It just wasn't able to perform. When you look at Magellan, now don't get me wrong, Magellan had its own little time to shine as well in the OP03 meta from what I've been seeing, because at the time there was Boatbeard, and being able to minus the power of cards, being able to minus the power of leaders was actually pretty beneficial, because then now you'd be able to actually hit things, because again, Boatbeard made things so oppressive in OP03 with just giving power to everything. Outside of that, Magellan, not seeing play. And then the card that, in my opinion, is just, I mean, I just need to rant about this real quick. Whoever created this card, I don't think that they either play tested it, or who knows, maybe in the future there's going to be something that makes this broken. But King, how disgustingly bad is this ability given the game plan of purple? We already discussed that purple wants to ramp up and then send the Dawn back to the Dawn deck in order to play big bodies or use powerful abilities. With King, he reads, if you have 10 Dawn cards on your field, okay, makes sense, game plan, you're going to ramp, hopefully you get to 10 Dawn cards early. All of your opponent's characters have 1,000 less power on your turn only. In fact, in my opinion, it would be better if it was on your opponent's turn, because it'd be better on the defensive end. This is good, obviously, if your opponent has cards rested so you can attack into them, but you have to have 10 Dawn. So do you know what that means? That means that the moment that you want to use one of your powerful abilities, or you play a card where on play it has to send a Dawn back, then this effect is no longer active. You basically have a vanilla leader until your next turn when you have your 10 Dawn back. And again, it would be nice when it's your opponent's turn to have 10 Dawn, and then they have minus 1,000 power for all of their characters. I feel like that would make it a lot stronger. I think that there's absolutely no way that this King leader will ever see play unless it gets eroded in some way, or if they end up creating cards that focus on his ability a little bit more. Cards like Paulie from OP03, and if you guys don't remember what Paulie does, because I mean, let's be real, who's playing this? If you guys take a look at the screen right now, when Paulie is played by resting 2 Dawn, you can add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So pretty good, a little bit of built-in ramp there, right? Pretty good. Works with King's game plan of wanting to get to 10 Dawn. Now, if you have 8 or more Dawn, you're able to KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. this is great, right? This works with King's game plan because he wants to have as much Dawn as possible. And then also you want to be able to have effects where you can be able to do things without you having to always lose Dawn. We need to see a lot more cards like Paulie in order for King to be viable. But until that happens, I don't see King ever being a leader that people would want to play. Like, in a casual sense, and then also in a competitive sense, because if I'm playing pure purple in a casual sense, unless I really just want to play King, like just for the character, again, it might as well be a vanilla leader, then in my opinion, like I feel like there's so many other vanilla leaders that I want to play at a casual level. Like I would much rather want to play Iceberg as a vanilla leader, or sorry, not vanilla leader, as a purple leader instead of King. Now, to wrap it all up, I think that we'll probably see more people playing purple, but again, not pure purple. I think that there's going to be people that are interested in Blurple Crocodile, Blurple Kaido, because of the new stuff that's coming in OPO4, as well as some of the new OPO4 leaders. We're going to have purple and yellow Crocodile, as well as purple and I believe green Doflamingo. So I think that with these new leaders coming in, we're going to have new cards in purple that will synergize with this. I think that we're going to see a lot more people playing dual colored purple leaders, but again, nothing for pure purple. Again, unless we see more cards like Paulie, never know, King might get some shine. Maybe Magellan could be a cool little tech meta call counter pick type thing. Who knows? But outside of that, in terms of the most competitive deck that has seen most recent success, has been Z, which again is dual colored. The one that's been monocolored has been Kaido from OPO1, and after OPO1 hasn't really seen much. So yeah, nobody plays purple because of those reasons. The other colors are just more fun to pilot. The leaders are cooler, and quite frankly, the other cards' colors are just better. The other cards' cards, there we go, are just better. And it's just as simple as that. It's unfortunate, but who knows? Things can always change. Let's see if purple gets better in OPO4. Obviously, again, like I said, it's going to be multicolored, but we'll see if as the sets go on, if purple will get back its dominance that it had in OPO1. With that being said, if you guys completely disagree with me, let me know in the comment section below. And as well, also, what are your ideas for purple? How would you bring them back into prominence? Let me know in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.